ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදිත් IDD කෝල්ස් ගන්නේ SLT ෆෝන් එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Good evening. Tonight, diplomacy in Commonwealth. President Maithripala Sirisena arrives in London and will address the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Theresa May reveals future plans for Commonwealth economy following Brexit.
We will also be funding a trade facilitation programme, supporting and providing technical assistance to selected Commonwealth countries.
Carom and draft. Former Sports Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage jailed for a night as he fails to meet bail conditions after being arrested by the FCID. Stronger towards 2020. Home Affairs Minister Wajirabewardena says the United National Front will continue to govern the country until 2020. Is the system at fault? Tense situation created at the Wawnia Urban Council premises over appointing a new chairman after LG polls. Tonight, we take an in-depth look as to whether this new electoral system is the best for Sri Lanka.
If you take this election method, is it the perfect method? No.
Slippery Comey. US President Donald Trump calls James Comey the worst FBI director in history, setting off a barrage of early morning tweets as Comey's expose to be released tomorrow. It's 9 o'clock on the dot. Welcome to First at 9, Other Derana's premier English news coverage. Hello everyone, I'm Mahesh Johnny. Problems continue to rise when forming power in local government bodies. We have an in-depth look as to whether the new system works. But first, we begin with the President's visit to the United Kingdom. President Maithripala Sirisena arrived in London this morning to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. This year's theme, hosted by the United Kingdom, is titled Towards a Common Future. Sri Lanka's head of state will address the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting on Thursday.
Upon his arrival last night, the head of state was received by Commonwealth officials and staff of the Sri Lanka High Commission. The President also paid homage to the Buddhist Vihara in London as he observed the New Year tradition anointing of oil which was held this morning. Blessings were invoked on the President and the delegation by the Chief Prelate of Britain and the Chief Incumbent of the Buddhist Vihara in London, Venerable Bogoda Sirivimalathera. President Maithripala is scheduled to meet the British Prime Minister Theresa May. The President will also address the Commonwealth Business Council as the keynote speaker on the theme Delivering the Sustainable Development Goals Strategy, Aligning Businesses, Society and Governments. President Sirisena is also expected to attend the special celebration of the 92nd birthday of Queen Elizabeth II.
Now here at home, a former Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage was arrested by the Financial Crimes Investigation Division this morning upon his arrival at the FCID. He was there to make a statement on allegations of misusing state funds amounting to 39 million rupees for the purchase of carom and draft boards when he was the Minister of Sports in 2014. The parliamentarian was produced before the Fort Magistrates Court, following which he was granted bail of amounting to 35,000 rupees and two sureties of 500,000 rupees along with a travel ban. The parliamentarian, however, failed to produce evidence that his passport was with the Colombo High Court and therefore was remanded till tomorrow.
Former Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage arrived at the Financial Crimes Division today to make a statement on allegations of misusing state funds amounting to 39 million rupees in order to purchase carom and draft boards in 2014. Security was beefed up at the FCID this morning.
The Financial Crimes Division called me to give a statement. I was accused with regards to an import of 14,000 carom boards by Lanka Sathosa. These carom boards were imported by Lanka Sathosa. The money was paid by Lanka Sathosa and it was distributed by Lanka Sathosa. They are trying to arrest me under the Public Property Act, claiming that I issued directives to them. If they think that they can stop us by imprisoning us, that's never going to happen. I brought my clothes. I know that this case will be filed under the Public Property Act and I will not receive bail.
Following a 3-hour statement, former Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage was arrested by the FCID and was produced before the 4th Magistrate Court. The attorney of the FCID informed the court that the Secretary of the Ministry of Sports had issued a letter to obtain 14,000 carom and draft boards. The attorneys of the FCID requested the court to remand the third suspect, Mahindananda Alutgamage, claiming that committing this act during the presidential election is an offence under the Public Property Act. After considering the facts submitted to court, the magistrate, Lanka Jayaratne, stated that carom and draft boards had already been imported by Lanka Satosa prior to the letter by the Secretary to the Ministry of Sports. The magistrate added that the Ministry of Sports is not accountable as the carom boards were found stored in a warehouse owned by Lanka Satosa. Accordingly, 4th Magistrate Lanka Jayaratne issued a cash bail bond of 35,000 rupees and 2 sureties of 500,000 rupees as well as a ban on overseas travel. The MP, however, failed to produce evidence that his passport was with the Colombo High Court and therefore was remanded till tomorrow. The case will be taken up again on the 11th of May.
Minister of Home Affairs Wajira Abewardena says that the United National Front has the ability to continue to govern the country until 2020. Meanwhile, former Minister Chandima Virakudi says that it's prudent for the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to vacate the government and allow the UNP to continue until the next election.
Following the decision by 16 SLFP members to resign from their ministerial portfolios in the current government last week, President Maithripala Sirisena appointed a special committee to decide on how the party must represent the national government and how it conducts necessary agreements. Minister Dr. Sarath Amunugama, who chairs the committee, said members of the committee had discussed with the UNP and it is in the process of drafting a preliminary document regarding a shared arrangement by both parties. Talking about the committee's attention on issues, committee member and General Secretary of the UPFA, Minister Mahinda Amaravira, said their focus is to continue with the national government while rectifying any shortcomings from earlier.
We'd like to let you know that a special committee chaired by Minister Sarath Amunugama will look into the shortcomings of the national government during the recent past and rectify them so that we can continue with the government.
Parliamentarians who represent the joint opposition meanwhile expressed these views on the matter.
I wouldn't be surprised if in a few months the SLFP and UNP decide to work together as a coalition under the same leader and party secretary. Although it has been said that the Prime Minister defeated the no confidence motion with his money and power, we now clearly see that he was just lost. Let's see what will happen during the next parliamentary session.
Meanwhile, former Minister Chandima Virakudi, who recently resigned from his ministerial portfolio, said it will be appropriate for the SLFP to leave the national government and allow the UNP to continue as the main governing political party of the country.
We have no problem if the SLFP Central Working Committee makes a decision to leave the national government and let UNP carry on with it by appointing their own cabinet of ministers and so on. We will sit with the opposition in the near future. I don't think the SLFP should remain in the national government anymore. These two parties working together would only mean there will be a downfall for both the UNP and the SLFP. So we will make the decision at a central working committee to join the opposition.
Expressing his views on the matter, Minister of Home Affairs Wajira Abewardena meanwhile says that the United National Front has the strength to continue the current government till 2020.
As per the current constitution, it is the United National Front which has secured the highest number of seats in Parliament. It has the power to continue the national government till 2020 with the support of independent groups and other political parties.
Another tradition in view of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year took place today. At 10:16 this morning, Sri Lankans across the island engaged in the tradition of anointing oil. The state ceremony for this event took place at the Attanagalla Raja Mahavihara.
At 10:16 this morning, a state ceremony was organized for the anointing of oil, which is observed while clad in white and facing north, with wood apple leaves placed on the head and imbul leaves at the feet. It was held under the auspices of Speaker Karu Jayasuriya and Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Sinaratna at the Attanagalla Rajamaha Viharaya. In the meantime, a ceremony to perform the ritual of anointing of oil was organized at the Sri Senananda Ramaya temple in Magastota in Nuwara Eliya. The ceremony attracted a large number of devotees, which was held under the auspices of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. A ceremony to perform the anointing of oil also took place at the Jnanoda Ramaya temple situated in Diabeduma in Giritale under the auspices of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Wish you a Happy New Year. The May Day will be held later into May this time. We requested for Gaul Face, but we didn't get it. We should give prominence to the Vesak Poya Day. There shouldn't be any second thought on it. May Day will be celebrated separately. We do not see any fault in the government taking such a decision. Clearly, we as a party have decided to accept the 16 members who voted against the government. The entire country has identified the joint opposition as the opposition. But when the others vote on time and sign agreements, they clearly are shareholders of the government.
Meanwhile, the Elephant Orphanage in Pinnavala also held a ceremony to perform the anointing of oil.
The temporary restriction for heavy vehicles travelling across the Udawalabe Reservoir Bridge was lifted by the Mahaweli Authority this evening. Irrigation engineers decided to restrict the movement of heavy vehicles yesterday after engineers noticed small cracks on the bridge.
All 5 sluice gates of the Udawalabe Reservoir has been opened due to heavy rains experienced in the Ratnapura district over the past few days. Measures were taken to restrict the movement of heavy vehicles over the dam yesterday after engineers observed several small cracks along the bridge. However, engineers lifted the temporary ban for heavy vehicles by midnight yesterday due to water levels receding. Speaking to other Derana, Deputy Director of the Mahaweli Authority said that the bridge is 50 years old and as a result, heavy vehicles travelling across the bridge should be vigilant when sluice gates at the reservoir are opened.
Also in local news tonight, Vavuniya Urban Council in the Vavuniya district was won by the Ilange Tamil Arasu Katchi at the last local authorities election. However, when the council met for the first time today, the chairman post went to a party which has secured only 3 seats during the election. This, as you can imagine, led to a conflict during the first day of the council.
Ilange Tamil Arasu Katchi secured 8 seats out of 21 in the Vavuniya Urban Council at the local authorities elections, which was held on the 10th of February. The first session of the council was held this morning and the chairman was selected by an open vote. While the winning party, Itax Tharmalingam Karadalingam, gets only 9 votes, Elam People's Democratic Party's Rasalingam Gautam receives 11 votes. UNP, SLFP and EPDP had voted for Elam People's Democratic Party's Rasalingam Gautam and he became the chairman of the council. Just after the session, a tense situation erupted at the Urban Council premises between Vavuniya's UNP organizer P. Karunadasa and Northern Provincial Councillor Rifkan Bathyuddin. The UNP organizer claimed that his party members had been bribed by the latter.
The past few months has indeed been chaotic for this country. The central bank bond scam, local government election, a no confidence motion, a prorogued parliament and now a split government. Adding fuel to the fire, we've even tested out a new electoral system. How did it go? Well, after 2 months down the line, we are still forming power in local bodies across the island. As just witnessed by you in the previous story, things are not going as smooth as expected. We wanted to dive deep into this new system. Did it work? What went wrong? What did we learn? And more importantly, how can we move on? With another election on the horizon, people working the system are scrambling to ensure that errors surfaced during the past election will not repeat itself in the coming ones. 15.8 million people went to the polls on the 10th of February 2018 in Sri Lanka's largest election in its history to elect members to 340 local authorities. This was the first time the country tested the mixed electoral system, where 60% of the members elected using the past-the-post voting and the remaining 40% through the closed list proportional representation. In weighing the pros and cons of this hybrid system, one positive outcome was the push towards 25% of women representation in each local body.
And hopefully that will be institutionalized as far as all levels of government are concerned. So I think the concern is with regard to the attitude or the perspective in which the elections were seen.
Now, on the flip side of things, there were some issues that seriously dented these positive outcomes.
Main negative factor is this elections, voters doesn't have their choice, the preferential voting, to select their representative. And the 40% of the members select by the political parties without any people's mandate. And also number of councillors increase is almost double with the new electoral system. There are a lot of financial transactions during the appointment of the chairmen and the mayors took place. It's really sad situation. I think from 1 million to 10 million. So it is not healthy, it is not good for the country like Sri Lanka.
In the first election held under this new hybrid system, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, a newly formed party under the leadership of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, won the majority of councils. A total of 231 bodies were secured by the SLPP. However, when the time came to form power in the local bodies, the SLPP managed to secure more councils by coming to an agreement with other parties. This led them securing power in councils they lost from the election.
The most significant aspect is that last moment changes are brought to this without studying or thinking of the consequences. And it is these amendments to the 70-30 that has caused the imbalance and doubt and criticism today. If it was 70-30, clear, whoever won would have had a stable mandate. That have been nullified by some of these amendments.
Political parties had great expectations that they will get great numbers. But whenever political parties couldn't achieve their goal, they blame the system. And then with regard to when selecting the mayor or the chairman, if a party received 50%, the party could nominate. Otherwise, the council had to nominate. You see that parties are losing control of their members. And for other reasons, you could see people jumping this side and that side. And for that reason, when parties don't have control, they were blaming the system.
So how could this be? Shouldn't a party that won the council must claim power to the said council? Is there a flaw in this new system?
Is it the perfect method? No, there are no perfect methods. And what happened is not a problem really with the mixed member proportional method, it's really in the way it was tinkered. We took out the threshold, and then the method for electing chairman and vice chairman was very clear in the previous method. Any party that gets the most votes, they get to choose the chair. Whether this is good or bad, that's something we can discuss. But even if we had thought about the details of what will happen after the election and drafted the legislation accordingly, I think these problems would not have cropped up.
In the world over, there are 20 types of systems that elects members to their respective council of power. In each system, it's tailor-made to address issues faced by the people of that particular country. So, does this new hybrid system address issues faced by Sri Lankans?
The way to approach is to understand what do we expect from our government. From local government, we expect different sort of services. There are more services. And from the parliament, we expect them to make national policy. So I think we don't have to have the same system for all three levels of government. We focused on representation and we didn't look at governability. For example, look at the size of the councils. From 4,800 or so, we now nearly doubled. Women's representation does not have to be at the expense of a bloated local government.
Make 2 or 3 wards into one. Thereby we could bring down the numbers. This system doesn't have a cut-off point. Whereas now there is in parliament elections there is a 5% cut-off point. Provincial council elections there is a cut-off point. So this system does not have a cut-off. So we need to introduce the cut-off point.
So where do we go from here? What should be the next move in a time where the next election in the form of a provincial council election is on the horizon?
We can treat this as a pilot project and see how do we alleviate these problems in a future provincial council election. Traditionally and historically, the science of politics or political science teaches us that other than general elections, local authority elections worldwide, not even here, I have a very, very low turnout because people just are not interested in who goes into the local authority. But this time I think we had almost near 75 to 76% turnout, which was fairly high. So which means the system that we tried worked. I don't think we need to move away from the ratio of what we tried in the local authority election. But yes, we have to figure out the calculating part. And maybe even have a minimum percentage of voting that a party would garner, and if not for that their votes are not counted. That may also be something that they can think of.
What really needs to happen is for a consultative meeting with all stakeholders where they come up with what their particular concerns are and tries to resolve them. And if it is going to go beyond the September point, let's hold the next round of provincial council elections on the existing system and then take our time and revise the system. But let's not do it in haste.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
On to business news now. The Sri Lankan government is now focused on benefiting from renewable energy as a solution to the current power crisis in the country. We at First at 9 took a look into how developments in this regard are unfolding.
There is an annual energy demand growth of 5 to 6% in Sri Lanka. Although the nation mainly uses thermal power sources including coal and imported fossil fuels along with its indigenous energy resource hydropower, electricity supply to household needs is yet to reach a quarter of Sri Lanka's population. Challenges faced by Sri Lanka's energy sector are many, and the prevailing drought in the country for the past 3 years has become the sector's main problem.
As far back as 2015, the Commission has indicated the issues that we are going to face in a dry condition in 2018, 2019 and 2020. But we can provide power. The issue is the cost. The moment you utilize more and more diesel or liquefied fuel, prices go up. That's why in the long-term generation expansion plan, we are looking at renewables and natural gas mix. Mana basin, we have gas also, so we can utilize that once it is harnessed, plus the imported liquefied natural gas. Now the solar and wind prices have come down tremendously over the last 3-4 years. Those actually provide a good option to get more and more energy into the system.
As a solution to the current power crisis and increasing costs associated, the Ceylon Electricity Board proposed the least cost long-term power generation expansion plan for the period of 2018 to 2037. It consists of a mix of renewable and natural gas solutions with 4,600 megawatts of natural gas plants and more than 7,000 megawatts of renewable energy power plants. But does the new plan also consist of another coal power plant in the country, similar to that of the Norochalai coal power plant?
In the long-term generation expansion plan does not have any coal power plants. We have to find out the least cost mixture. Coal did not come into the least cost power plan for the 2018-2037 period.
At present, Sri Lanka's national grid benefits from more than 500 megawatts of non-conventional renewable energy power plants. However, only 128 megawatts of power is generated from solar energy, while another 51 megawatts of power is generated from wind power plants in the country. Emphasizing that Sri Lanka has now reached its optimum level of hydropower generation, Director Development of the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy, Sulakshana Jayawardena, revealed the government's alternative plans to the energy crisis.
Government has initiated Surya Bala Sangame program to provide customers to put up solar power systems on top of their roofs. If they have surplus, they can sell it to the utility, that is CB or LECO. Under that program, we targeted to achieve 200 megawatt by 2020 and another 800 megawatt by 2025. Large-scale solar power projects are being planned to put up 100 megawatt of solar power generation facility at Punareen and Monragala area, Siemalandu area. In addition to that, government plan to develop 10 megawatt of power plant, especially to invest private sector to put up those power plant, one at Walacheni, the other one at Vaunathiyuv. Another 100 megawatt of wind power plant to be constructed at Mana, which will be belongs to CEB. The tender process is being implemented. Likewise, we targeted to add approximately 400 megawatt of solar power plant by 2020 and also another 400 megawatt from wind power plants.
Sri Lanka is blessed with renewable energy sources which can be harnessed to fulfill energy requirements as well as the current energy crisis of the country. The next few years will therefore be crucial for the energy sector, following continuous warnings to implement the proposed energy solutions soon. We at First at 9 will be on the lookout for developments or failures in this regard.
British Prime Minister Theresa May today extolled the benefits of free trade among Commonwealth countries, seeking new sources of commerce as Britain looks into finalise divorce terms with its current biggest trading partner, the European Union. May is looking to win the support of the Commonwealth for future trade deals at a meeting of its leaders in London and bolster her argument that the future is bright after Brexit.
Speaking at the opening of a Commonwealth Business Forum, British Prime Minister Theresa May urged the issue of common standards across the network of 53 countries, warning that global growth was fragile and that protectionism posed a clear threat to the world economy. In 2015, Commonwealth countries accounted for only 9% of British exports, while by contrast, the EU, which Britain voted to leave in 2016, accounted for around 44%.
Here in the UK, for example, the value of our exports to fellow members is roughly double what it was 20 years ago. Yet risks remain. Global growth is fragile. The challenges posed by protectionism are all too clear. We will also be funding a trade facilitation programme, supporting and providing technical assistance to selected Commonwealth countries in implementing the World Trade Organization's Trade Facilitation Agreement. Full implementation of the WTO agreement is estimated to reduce trade costs by up to 16% for less developed countries. It will cut the average time needed to import goods by 47%, and the time taken to export by as much as 91%, a huge boost for businesses across the Commonwealth.
On to international news now. US President Donald Trump set off a barrage of early morning tweets directed at James Comey ahead of the former FBI chief's highly anticipated TV interview which aired last evening. Now, Trump tweeted that he hardly even knew the guy and that his memos are self-serving and fake.
Calling James Comey the worst FBI director in history, US President Donald Trump challenged accusations Comey makes in a tell-all book titled A Higher Loyalty, Truth, Lies and Leadership that is due for release tomorrow, and insists that he never pressed Comey to be loyal to him. Reuters and other news outlets have obtained copies of Comey's book before its formal release. In it, Comey wrote that Trump, in a private meeting, pressed the then FBI director for his loyalty. Trump fired Comey last May, setting off a firestorm as the Federal Bureau of Investigation was probing possible connections between Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and Russia's meddling in the American elections. In Comey's interview with ABC News, he says that Trump is morally unfit to be president, who treats women like pieces of meat. After the interview aired, Trump's party, via the Republican National Committee, released a statement saying Comey's publicity tour for his new book showed that his true high loyalty is to himself. It is the latest development in a long-standing feud between the two men, further fueled by the upcoming publication of Comey's memoir. President Trump had gone on to suggest that Comey should be imprisoned, and in recent days began referring to him as a slimeball.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
On to sports news now. Commonwealth Games organisers have apologised after stringent criticism on social media of last night's closing ceremony. The chairman of the organising committee, the former Queensland Premier Peter Beattie, admitted that they got it wrong.
After a closing ceremony that barely focused on athletes and featured long, rambling speeches, Gold Coast Commonwealth Games chairman Peter Beattie has admitted organisers got it wrong. The athletes entered Carrara Stadium before the television broadcast and were rarely shown to TV audiences as they stood in darkness on the fringe of the stage. There were reports that many began leaving the venue less than an hour into the event. The ceremony also featured at least 7 speeches by dignitaries, including Beattie, the Premier of Queensland, and the Lord Mayor of Birmingham. Beattie tweeted an apology this morning. Speaking to a news channel in Australia, BT had this to say.
One of the problems, of course, is when you've got thousands of athletes, where do you put them? They've competed, they're exhausted. The last thing they want is standing in a field for an hour waiting to get into a closing ceremony. Now, did we get it wrong? Yes, we did get it wrong. Did we stuff it up? Yes, we did stuff it up. Should they have been part of the actual ceremony that was broadcast? Of course they should have been. We got it wrong.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, here is Rinesh Bongso with your weather.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Your temperatures for tomorrow will vary between 21 and 31 degrees Celsius. Light precipitation will prevail in most parts of the island during the day. However, we expect a low pressure zone to develop in the southern region of the island in the evening. Thunder showers can be expected in the districts of Mannar, Trincomalee, Anuradhapura and Batticaloa, with a few showers also expected in Vaunia and Puttlam, with sunny weather forecast for Jaffna throughout the day. Heavy showers accompanied by lightning can be expected in the districts of Colombo, Kandy, Galle and Kalmune, with a few showers expected in Negombo, Mathura and Hambantota. As minor to major showers have been experienced at various parts of the island during the past few days. The Met Department has warned that thunder showers accompanied by strong winds can be expected over most provinces after 2 p.m. Well, that's it from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9 will return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. Now, before we wrap things up for tonight, let's take you back to the Gold Coast and to the closing ceremony of the 21st Commonwealth Games. Celebrities and singers lit up the stadium by their performances. The next Commonwealth Games will be held in 2022 as the city of Birmingham, UK will play host. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.